when people say and do things that they later on maybe even regret um, under the influence of intoxication. So it's explained that in our Krishna conscious practice, we refrain from intoxication. As Srila Prabhupada would also say, being in the material world and being in the material body is a type of intoxication where one is under the influence of the external energy, and one starts to act different than one's actual given nature. And because of that, people say and do things that, as I said later on, they don't mean or they regret, like that. And we see there are laws in some states which are enacted to punish people who drive a car under the influence of intoxication because one's faculties, sensual faculties, are not in line, and one can cause harm to others or even death to others unknowingly, or at least under the influence of such intoxication. The Prabhupada would also say that we're already intoxicated due to our attachment to material existence. So to add another form of intoxication on top is just like you might say an extra layer of intoxication. The sober life is Krishna consciousness, where the living entity is not under something that is unnatural. They are back in their natural state of consciousness, and therefore they are free from any delirium. They know who they are. They know their spirit souls. They're meant to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they engage in such service. Therefore, that is called sober life, or natural life, or that life that is not influenced by something that will cause one to think different than what one's real identity is. And it's like today, if you ask someone who they are, they'll tell you something related to their bodily identity. But actually, it's from the material point of view, it's normal. But from the reality, it's not really accurate because we are not anything material. Jivya Sarupai Krishna Nityadas. We are an eternal servant of the Lord that has a material body, that's encumbered within another energy, which makes one think and act differently than one's best interest and true identity, both. And that is called ahankara, or false identification, or what we might say, another form of madness. So therefore, in Krishna consciousness, we refrain from anything which will cause one to remove farther away from their both our proper identity and proper activity. Therefore, there's restrictions. It's like no illicit sex, no sex outside of marriage, and no sex inside of marriage unless it's done for the procreation of children. So there's a restriction there because sex life puts one on the bodily concept of life very strongly and gives one a sense of attachment to something that actually is compounding their material attachments. They become deeper into that same attachment on the body. And they also think that this is actually happiness, but happiness is not on the bodily level, it's on the spiritual level. And that's why some of the greatest sufferings is caused by sex life. And the more one enjoys in this material world, the more one suffers proportionally or even greater in the same way. That's the laws of material nature. Because material nature is duality. On one side, some so-called pleasure, and the other side, an opposite that is of the counterpart of that so-called pleasure. Just like if you have a coin, you have the front side and you have the back side. You can't have a coin that has two front sides or two back sides. There's a head and there's the tails. So in the same way, any material activity always has a built-in form of suffering that comes with the activity. And that's just the nature of material activity, either direct or delayed. And these sufferings manifest. No illicit sex, no intoxication, as it says, the living entity is already intoxicated under the influence of this idea that I am this body and I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, I am perfect, I am so many illusions about one's identity based on this wrong conception of oneself. The identity is an illusion, and the symptom of that identity is a greater form of the same illusion. And then you have no eating of meat, fish, or eggs. This is also done to refrain from causing unnecessary harm to other living entities. So one is restricted in their eating, and therefore one can eat food that's been offered to the Supreme Lord. Once it's offered to the Supreme Lord, it becomes the mercy of the Lord and is known as prasadam. And it gives health, happiness, and longevity of life. Whereas food that is eaten and that is not offered to the Lord, or it's in the category of sinful, because certain foods are not offerable, such as meat, fish, eggs, and similar other foods. They just locks one consciousness into a reaction of sinful activities, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita. One who eats food that's not prepared to the Lord eat verily only sin. That sin, in other words, one has to acknowledge through prayer and offer to the source in order to become free from the reactions of sinful activities that is committed by eating. And that means any food that's not offered to the Lord. Even though it may be in a category of acceptable foodstuffs, still it has a sinful carrier with it, and then one has to suffer because of that. So one should only take prasadam, the mercy of the Lord. And no gambling. Gambling is trying to get something for nothing. One is allotted so much happiness and so much distress, and one cannot get something for nothing. It's automatic. Based on one's karma, one will get so much material happiness and material suffering. When one comes to Krishna consciousness and performs spiritual activities, one nullifies the results of their past karma, both good and bad, and creates what is called spiritual karma, or that results of the activities of devotional service that are free from either material happiness or material distress. They are spiritual, and they elevate one to the spiritual platform, devotional service. But those activities that are performed outside of devotional service, particularly certain activities such as trying to get something for nothing. In other words, we call it gambling. Or Prabhupada gives an extended definition of this gambling. Watching frivolous television is another form of gambling, or engaging in frivolous types of sporting activities is also called gambling. So devotees avoid these types of things because they cause one to become more and more enmeshed, locked in to the consciousness of I, me, and mine, rather than the consciousness of Krishna and his service. So these four activities, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, no gambling, are meant to give restrictions in areas which allow one to perform the devotional service without any hindrance, because these things will hinder one's devotional service and bring one back again to material consciousness. And the reactions are also many times unfavorable. One has to suffer the reactions of these activities, especially illicit sex and intoxication. Of course, meat eating is there too. And so these are there as not as a means of restriction, but it's a means of restriction for higher consciousness, to nullify the results of activities of the lower consciousness by replacing them with activities of higher consciousness, which is devotional service, that which is above the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, that which is Sudasattva, or pure consciousness. So devotees very carefully restrict themselves from these activities and focus fully on the recommended activities of devotional service, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Bandhanam, Dasyam, Atman Nivedanam, Sakyam, Atman Nivedanam, the ninefold angas of bhakti, which are the authorized ways by which one can serve the Lord. And these elevate one to a higher platform existence, and eventually to the transcendental platform, which is above the three modes of material nature, and one starts to experience the mercy of the Lord directly through the process of serving the Lord without any hindrance coming from the material energy. So here, the drinking is the one that's being talked about in this particular thing, and how Krishna's family all of a sudden became really negative towards each other and started using harsh words that were causing great unhappiness to others, which resulted, I guess it'll go on to explain it in the upcoming verses, it resulted into a battle where all of them were annihilated, just killing each other. And so intoxication is so bad that one loses all sense of civility and common sense like that. one says things, does things, and doesn't even understand what the repercussions of such speech or activity will bring, because intoxication just causes one to act in a very reckless way. Now here we have the result. Okay, so yeah, and of course, this was, of course, orchestrated by the Lord, because Krishna's family could never do this, but it was used as an example to teach, and at the same time, to bring those living entities who were followers of Krishna, his family members, back to their positions in the higher realms and get them out of the material world, because Krishna knew he had relieved the burden of the earth by his presence, but now he created another burden, his family members. And so now he reflects on that, and then he orchestrates this pastime where they act in this way and again eventually leave the material world and eventually regain their position in the higher realms. This pastime is simply the Lord's orchestration to get his family members out of the material world, so they don't cause a bigger burden on the world after he just relieved the world. And he had many family members. They were over 10 million. Okay, so we'll stop there and open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Very, very instructive class on the restrictions of the four regulative principles. Dear devotees, if you can, please, can you start your videos so that we can have interactive session? And if you have any questions, yes, raise your hand or put it in the chat and I can read on your behalf. So we have got one hand already raised. Pratham Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Uh, you said that the TV is also a form of gambling. So I'm not able to understand that clearly. Can you explain it?
Yeah. What do you see on TV? Illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, various kinds of sinful activities that are propagated as something acceptable, something entertaining. You're gambling with your spiritual life.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Prabhu. Any other questions?
Of course, if you watch Krishna conscious TV, then it's allowable. But everything material there is always entwined with various kinds of sinful activities in the name of entertainment.
Right. Normal intoxication, we understand that we don't do or take any of those intoxic items, but the intoxication of the position, the wealth, the beauty and stuff, it's really difficult, to even understand that we are intoxicated, and the behavior of the people becomes very harsh after like being intoxicated with all those things. How do we get over that? Because it's so subtle, we don't even realize that we are intoxicated with that.
Well, we're not this body.
I know.
We're accepting something that's false.
Yeah.
And we get this type of arrogance that comes with material success is a form of intoxication, because it has nothing to do with the soul.
Exactly.
And the arrogance that comes with it is very offensive towards others. One becomes proud
Yeah.
and then acts in that proud way towards others, thinking themselves better than others, and also minimizing the importance of others. So there's many, what we say, um, reactions or symptoms of this type of illusion. So one has to understand I'm not this body. I'm spirit soul. I have a body, but that's not the activities of the body or the qualities that are exhibited as the body, such as beauty, strength, knowledge, all of these things, are coming as the mercy of the Lord and not something to flaunt one's existence. Yeah, we have to understand what's the difference between material and spiritual. Material is reference to the body, mind, and senses. Spiritual is in relationship to the activities of devotion to Krishna.
Yep. Have to be conscious all the time. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. There's any other questions? Otherwise, there is a question in the chat by Darya Mataji. She's asking, were Kshatriyas allowed to take intoxication even if they were devotees? Did every Varna have their own regulatory principles?
No, not even if they're devotees.
Mm.
Devotees are restricted, but Kshatriyas are given that leadway. Because they have that tendency. That's material. It's not for devotees. We have devotees who are Kshatriyas in our movement, and they restrict themselves from that activity, and they're not allowed to engage in these things because devotional service is down the line. It doesn't mean because one has a Kshatriya service or a Kshatriya nature that they can eat meat or take intoxication. They might have that tendency in the body, but they don't act on it because they are engaged in devotional service, which doesn't allow for them to perform such, we say, sinful activities.
So the regulatory principles are same for all the devotees, no matter what Varna they are, isn't it, Guru Maharaj?
Yeah, for devotees, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there okay, Darya Mataji? Thank you. Thank you for the question. Yes, Raj Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to you. Guru Maharaj, how did Yudhishthir Maharaj, even after being devotee, he accepted the proposal of gambling, and even after being so pious, how can he? This is a question asked by someone else. How can he, put Draupadi on what should I say in gambling?
Campbell with Prabhu.
Yeah.
He did it. He did. He's not a member of the Hare Krishna movement. He's a Kshatriya. Bhima. Yeah, Kshatriyas are allowed to drink and to, at least in case of Yudhisthira, he was addicted to gambling. And that caused him so many problems. And the Kauravas took advantage of that in order to exploit the Pandavas. He's a Kshatriya, so he did it. I mean, he has that tendency.
But Guru Maharaj, isn't he a devotee too?
Yeah, he's a devotee. Well, devotees do these things too. But he's not an ISKCON devotee. Because if we do it in Kali Yuga, we'll go to hell. So Kshatriyas were allowed to drink, allowed to kill an animal. They wouldn't eat meat simply to eat meat. They would have to go out and kill the animal, and then they could eat. Otherwise, they weren't allowed. So we tell people who want to eat meat, go out and kill your own animal, and then you can do that if you want. But they won't. They'll think, "Oh, I can't kill anything." Well, you're actually sanctioning killing by eating. I mean, it was even one situation in ISKCON where one devotee, he was a real Kshatriya, I mean, first class. And Prabhupada said he could also take intoxication. Prabhupada allowed that for that one devotee. But he didn't do it. He was given that allowance, but he didn't do it. At least from my experience, he didn't take it. Because it happened in New Vrindavan. And I was there at the time, and I don't remember him getting any intoxication. Of course, I don't know everything, but what happened with him, but still Prabhupada allowed it. Kshatriyas are strong-minded. So don't start thinking that, everybody has to follow the Hare Krishna protocol. If you follow the Hare Krishna protocol, good. But in general, these things are, not even outside of Hare Krishna, they are sinful activities. Look what happened to Yudhisthira because of his gambling. Not that it's good, it's just allowed for certain class of people. They say if you want to eat meat, you can kill a goat on a full moon night, and you have to chant one mantra. And if you follow that, then you can eat meat. But what does the mantra say? Mr. Goat, you're giving your life for me so I can eat you. And in a future life, you can kill me and eat me. And that's the mantra. Called Mamsa. So there's concessions for people who want to eat meat. There's concessions for people who want to drink. But there's these concessions are also attached to rules and regulations that allow for that to happen. If they don't follow these rules and regulations, then they get sinful reactions immediately for the activity. If they follow the concessionary activities, they can be free from sinful reactions, but it's still, they'll get a reaction later anyway from performing the activity. And the example is used there. Yeah, you see in certain religions, even the Jewish religion, they have what is called kosher. They can have certain types of meat, which is called kosher. I'm not too much versatile in their details of that, but they're allowed. When I was growing up in Christianity, we couldn't have any meat on Friday. Every Friday of the year, there was no meat allowed because that's the day that Jesus Christ was killed. It was on Friday, supposedly killed anyway. He wasn't killed, but that's the understanding. So I remember when I was a kid, we couldn't have meat on Friday. And then gradually they started to change where they dropped that whole thing. But it's still sinful. Doesn't matter if it's restricted or concessionary, it still has a sinful reaction to it. But there's a class of people who will do it anyway. Will better do it under Vedic principles, which allows them a lesser form of reaction and is meant to just like illicit having sex with your wife. There's so many restrictions, even for producing babies. You can only have it for once a month. Only 4 days after the woman's menstrual cycle, when the woman is actually fertile to conceive a child. So everything is organized in that way. And if there's no pregnancy, then one has to wait another month until that same time period comes up, and then one can do it again. And this is to restrict sex down to just for procreation. Otherwise, people will do it, haphazardly, just whenever they want, and become more and more sinful and degraded. So one devotee said to Srila Prabhupada, sex only once a month? Better to give it up altogether. Prabhupada said, very good boy, now you understand. So the restrictions that come with concessionary types of activities, such as drinking, sex, like that, meat eating, is all meant to discourage one from the activity. It's done in the house of Veda, so people don't become just careless and just do it anytime they want. They do it under restrictions. But the restrictions are meant to deter you from the activities eventually. That's why there's so many restrictions. So which one do you like?
Which one do I like, Maharaj?
Illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, or meat eating?
He got caught, Guru Maharaj, in front of everyone. Poor thing.
Yeah, Prabhupada would ask sometimes devotees during initiation, which one do you still like? And then they would be embarrassed and say, "Oh, Prabhupada, none of them." Prabhupada said, "Yes, that's the idea."
Raj Prabhu didn't say that, Guru Maharaj, yet.
Whether you like it or
Yes,
not,
yes.
you better not perform it because you'll get.
Am I supposed to answer this, Guru Maharaj? Yeah.
No, you're not supposed to answer it, but you should think about it anyway. See, see which one you're still inclined towards. Just keep it quiet, nobody will know. But then get rid of it eventually.
I don't know what to say, Guru Maharaj.
Concession is not permission, it's just restriction. That's all. There's concessionary principles for those who can't give it up. For whatever reason, they can't give it up. So better do it under a concessionary situation and then gradually detach themselves from it completely in due course of time. That's why all of the concessionary rules and regulations are very difficult, just to make it difficult for those who want it. But we recommend you don't want it. But there are people who say they'll give it up, but they don't give it up, and then they do it on the side, and they break the principles, and then they're getting direct sinful reactions. Well, this is to prevent them from getting severe sinful reactions as concessionary things. That's why we say don't take initiation until you can actually free yourself from these four sinful activities.
Thank you for that question, Raj Prabhu. It was really nice. So many instructions came out of that.
I won't mention any names, but there was one senior devotee in our movement who was propagating that we can take a little wine with our meals. It would be okay because wine is very healthy and it's good for the body and like that. So of course he never did it, but I heard him speak it openly about that as an idea.
Yeah. Okay. Amritanam Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, Guru Maharaj, a follow up from the previous question. When spiritual master gives concession, so does does the devotee still have to undergo the reaction, or because the concession is given, they don't get the reaction?
No, they get their reaction too. You mean if they promise to follow the four regulative principles and they take initiation, does the reaction go just to the spiritual master? Is that what you're saying?
No, when the initiation is done, we have four regulative principles. But in some exceptional cases, a spiritual master gives concession to certain devotees because they can't take it up at the very moment. So, is that concession? Does that concessions bring reactions?
Yeah, definitely. But not because they want it and to keep them in the house of Veda, it's given, or else they'll do it anyway. So better they do it under guidance and then eventually give it up, rather than go out and do it secretly and then full-fledged sinful reactions
Mm.
and do it in a cheating way.
Mm.
But the spiritual master doesn't usually allow that. In certain rare cases, that one devotee that's the only one I know, he said, was that one devotee he allowed for him to drink. But we don't have any information that he actually did that. At least I don't. And I was there in the place where he was, and Prabhupada had given them that. I was in New Vrindavan in 1974. 73, actually. I don't remember him. I remember him being there, but I don't remember him doing these things. Whether he did it or not, I don't know.
Guru Maharaj, talking about, yes, please.
He was a real fighter. His fighting propensity was very, very prominent. And he came to New Vrindavan to train devotees how to fight after we were attacked by a motorcycle gang. He came as the trainer, and so Prabhupada allowed him to take intoxication if it was necessary for him to do that training. But I don't remember him doing it, although I remember him being there training the devotees. So. I don't know.
Guru Maharaj, talking about Kshatriyas in the previous ages, what was the reason that they were permitted to do certain things which were not exactly Vedic? Like killing, for their practice, they were allowed to kill the animals in the forest, and they were allowed to gamble. They were allowed to do a limit up to certain limit of prostitution, something like that.
Yeah, kings had many, many concubines. They would have their wife, but then the wife would have their maidservants, and then many of the maidservants would also get pregnant by the king. And that was the story of, who was it? Vidura?
Dhritarashtra.
Dhritarashtra, isn't it, Guru?
Yeah. Well,
That is because of their strong nature, Guru Maharaj.
You're surprised that this is happening? You must be living in a cocoon or something.
I'm not living in a cocoon, Guru Maharaj, but looking at the devotee culture, I was just wondering that a sense control should be there, but Kshatriyas were given certain amount of concession. There must be some reason for that.
Yeah, that's their nature. A real Kshatriyan, they have that nature for sense gratification. Not just anybody who presents himself as a military person, but a real Kshatriya. We call them Rajputs, right? In India.
Yeah, Rajputs were Kshatriyas. Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. That was a nice question. Any other devotees? Okay, Sadhvi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, and thank you very, very much for today. I don't remember exactly where I read it, but I read that Maharaj Parikshit was during the hunting of hunting a deer, I believe, when he come across the rishi that sitting and chanting and meditating, and when he asked the rishi where did the deer went, he was meditating, so he didn't answer, and that's when he take the snake and put it around the neck of the rishi. Do I have I read right that this also happened? Thank you.
Oh, he came in. Well, maybe he was on a hunting expedition, but he came into the house of the rishi and he wanted some water because he was thirsty, and the rishi was in meditation, didn't respond to him. He didn't ask the rishi about any deer. That's not mentioned anywhere. But he's a kshatriya, so kshatriyas have to practice their military arts, so they're allowed to kill certain animals, not all animals, only certain wild animals like tigers and boars, like that. They're not allowed to kill cows like that. That's for sure. Deers, I don't really know. So yeah, Kshatriyas, in order to practice their military art, would go hunting for animals. But they would take the animal back, and then according to the rules and regulations, they would honor the animal also as being a great fighter. One king was like that. I forgot what his name was. He would go with a sword and kill the animal and then bring the animal back as the hero of the jungle. So don't mix up Krishna consciousness with ordinary Kshatriyas, or even those Kshatriyas that were, in line with Krishna consciousness activities. Still, they perform their duty as a Kshatriya. Whether Maharaj Parikshit did or not, I don't really know. I can't recall it saying that he was on a hunting expedition. You read that? It says he was hunting.
Yes.
Well, is it in it's in the Bhagavatam?
No, I don't believe it was in Bhagavatam. I believe I read it in Mahabharata.
Okay. I don't doubt it, but at the same time, I can't acknowledge it either. So.
May I ask, because he is a Kshatriya, so he wouldn't get the reaction of the hunting that he does, right?
No, he wouldn't get. Yeah, no, he wouldn't get the reaction.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. There is a question in the chat by Rasa Vilasini Radha Mataji. She's asking that this question is not from today's class. Why did King Dashratha go to heaven after his death, even though at the time of his passing he remembered Lord Rama and called out his name? The King Dashratha was pious and devoted, or was there any particular reason why he went to heaven instead of Vaikuntha planet?
That's what it says. Just take it as it is. Are we trying to interject our own ideas into it? Take it as it is. The Pandavas also, it says Kshatriyas usually they attain to the heavenly realms after their kingly activities in the material realm. It says that usually. I think even Yudhisthira and his brothers also went to heaven.
Yeah.
But in heaven, they worship the Supreme Lord in a different form. The Pandavas came back as trees on the banks of the, was it Shamakund? They were actually trees on the bank of Shamakund, so that they got a worldly existence after they departed to take birth as trees in Krishna's bathing place in Vrindavan, Shamakund.
Mhm.
Prabhupada said, many of my devotees will attain heavenly planets after they leave the world. Many, he said, they won't make it to Vaikuntha.
Is it because of the lack of bhakti they have? Is it, Guru Maharaj?
Completely pure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Rasavilasini Mataji says, thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Sri Devi Mataji.
Thank you, Skoha. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. As this discussion about Kshatriyas is going on and the different activities of Kshatriyas and how they were allowed to have more than one wife, drink liquor, do hunting, etc., I'm just wondering because liquor, alcohol, it completely alters the sensorium. You say and do things that you have no consciousness of later on. And Kshatriyas had to be very vigilant. An enemy could attack anytime, anything could happen. They had to rule the citizen. So, why did they indulge in alcohol drinking?
Why are we asking these most silly questions? I can't believe what a silly question that is. Why are they doing what they're doing? I mean, this is so silly. Why don't you ask a question that has some substance to it? We've been discussing this already, and you haven't got the points yet. I mean, we're discussing it for a half hour, and you still can't get it. I mean, why are you asking this question? It's not even a good question. Why did they do what they did? Ask them. I don't know. How can I, why do we care so much? We don't do it. It's Lord Chaitanya's movement is different. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. Lord Chaitanya has made the process of going back home, back to Godhead easy. Lord Chaitanya wasn't there during that time, nor did they follow Lord Chaitanya.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. I'm sorry, I got carried away with all the discussion about Kshatriyas, I guess.
Yeah, because you're a Kshatriya. So you even told me 55,000 times how much you're a Kshatriya. And you've shown it in about 45,000 times by example. So, so you're asking the question that you actually know the answer to.
Guru Maharaj, I swear, I don't do any of those things. I promise you. I have never done any of those things, mentioned like that.
But
Alcohol and gambling and all that.
but you understand the mentality though.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
All too well.
There's the answer. You got it.
We really have to get higher taste. Then only this is possible. Otherwise, mind keeps going to all this lower taste.
Lord Chaitanya's movement is different than with the activities of the soldiers in Dwarpa Yuga, you know.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Kings, rulers, they engage in these things. It's just natural.
Mm.
Come on in.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions before we come to end? Because we will be closing soon. We've gone over our time limit.
Well, we started a little late, so.
I know, Guru Maharaj, that's true. That's why we continued. It's 1 hour after that as well. So I'm just reminding everyone, if there is any questions, we'll take it. Otherwise, we can close it.
Mhm.
There's no questions in the chat. Okay, Raj will go on.
Guru Maharaj, you said that in heavenly planet, Kshatriyas get chance to worship Krishna. Isn't it contradictory that in heavenly planets we read generally that there is no possibility of doing devotional service or worshipping or remembering Krishna?
You don't read the scriptures. There's Indra worships a form of the Lord. That's mentioned. I forget one of the Vishnu forms of the Lord. It's mentioned there. Not Krishna, but Vishnu. There's worship of the Lord all through existence, everywhere, even on this planet. People worship in different ways, different gradations of worship. Sometimes direct, sometimes less direct, sometimes distant manifestation of the Lord, sometimes another one. You see that even in subcultures, they worship the Lord.
Got it, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
That's mentioned also when, where is it? Forgot. I think it might be in the not Brahma Samhita, but in I can't remember the scripture. But yeah, Indra also worships a form of the Lord. And the demigods also too. They don't worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because those who want to worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they come out of there and come back to the earth planet and join the Hare Krishna movement. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the only manifestation of God that's teaching Vrindavan. No one else is teaching Vrindavan. They're teaching Vaikuntha at best. Okay.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, we can stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
You all, tomorrow is with Harrisburg.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Tomorrow is Harrisburg devotees, the class with, and the verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 7.2.
7.2, but is the time the same?
Same time, Guru Maharaj, same time.
You sure?
Yeah, that's what I have been instructed by Srimati Mataji.
Okay, 7.2, same time.
Yes.
So, different questions.
Altogether different topic only but this was really interesting topic and so many nice instructions we learned today. So thank you so much, dear devotees, for your participation, and thank you, Guru Maharaj, for your instruction.
Learn
Srimad
not to drink.
Sorry.
Learn not to drink. That's all we learned. That's about it.
That was so much important, Guru Maharaj. That saves us from so many problems.
This is just to re-emphasize those who still have that tendency.
Exactly. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Chandramauli Swami
जय
Maharaj ki jai.
Yes.
जय हरे कृष्ण
Thank you
गुरु
so
Hare
much.
महाराज
Krishna,
It's
Krishna,
always
thank you,
fun.
Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Ge Guru Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you very
Krishna.
much for
Thank you
today.
very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you. I'll end the call now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.